Peace, 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 peace. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everyone is hearing me all right. It is Pastor Ben, edition of Live from the Resource Center. I am actually on location in the beautiful city of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And hopefully before we end this live, I can give you a shot of the distance where you can see the ocean and everything. But we are up at 7 a.m. And look, I'm going to be real. I was expecting it to be a little quiet out here, but the city is already up and live. We had some motorcycles ride through. The workers are up. I'm hearing life in the streets and people moving around property. You got people out here on the balcony already uh, reading and enjoying this beautiful morning. Uh, I've been up since 6 o'clock, and I mean, it was live, and I just love it, man. You love feeling and hearing the as this goes out and people come in. Let me get my. Uh, I've got a new angle, so I'm gonna try to remember to look at the camera. But uh, this is Saturday, May 24th, and I'm actually on location. My beautiful firstborn celebrated her 15th birthday yesterday, so just came during this holiday weekend. So we just said, hey, let's try to get out and do family. The kids always get excited about going to the ocean from, I guess, the everyday stuff, for them, school, activities, whatever. For us, work, whatever other things we're attached. So anytime you can get away, it's always a chance to reset, restart. So we pray Most High for that. So we're gonna talk about a few things. I'm not gonna keep you long, but if we get in the spirit and get to moving and start having a good time, then we're gonna do what it do. I hope everything holds up with this net connection. Let me get it. IG, what's up, everybody on IG, uh, YouTube, as you see. Just want to remind everybody, you can follow us on IG at the RCB store. If you're watching on YouTube, you can go to our Facebook page, uh, the Resource Center Bookstore on Facebook, and you can email us at the R at Gmail. So let me get a couple things, and then we're gonna get right to it. I'm struggling with this internet that's going on a little bit. I, I hope it doesn't drop it, but we're gonna see. But okay, looks like we're getting there. Let me get that. Maybe if I hold it over here. All right, we're gonna do that. I hope the stream continues to hold up. Like I say, we're on location, and you never know. But what I do want to say is good morning. I see we got a few people in, so I say good morning once again. Shout out to those on IG. Please go like Facebook page, the Resource Center Bookstore on Facebook. Go to the YouTube page, Resource Center TV. Make sure you like and subscribe. Or better yet, let me just do it like this. All right, so real briefly, make it into the big decision Supreme Court made. Just want to talk about that as a former educator. It's always an important subject to me about our public education system. So I'm gonna put on that hat this morning, and then of course I'm gonna put on the pastoral hat. just to share a couple of verses that I appreciate to help us get started this morning. Also, toward the end, we'll get into what you're reading to give an update, just a thought from our book. Let me put it up. I hope you can see it. Remember, we're reading this month of May, Everybody Eats, Communication and the Paths to Food Justice. And then I might even share a thought from that. I know you can't read this title because it's all beat up. Let me prop my mic up, but might share a thought. Let me see if I can get it open. Sorry about that. From my beloved, the Gospel of Hip Hop, first instrument. I am a hip hop, though I'm not a member of the temple yet. I do follow. I have to get myself in order, but I do want to share some thoughts. But I just want to make sure everybody knows I am not a spokesman for it or speaking in authority with it. I just want to share an idea in relation to something that that is been kind of a mantra of this podcast. Shout out to the teacher KRS-One, Temple of Hip Hop, Minister Sun One, all those. Love and peace to them. So, that being said, let's get ready to get started. All right, peace, Pastor Ben, live from the Resource Center. Thank you for joining us on location in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Beautiful morning and up and moving at 7 a.m. So this week, a big decision came from the Supreme. And I'm not going to get deep into the political aspects of one side or another. I'm just speaking from the point of view of an educator. So, as we know, there have been executive orders, right, trying to gut Department of Education and everything, and it was a big decision handed out by federal courts to kind of block that and slow that and try to order employees back. But I do want to just speak briefly, just on the fact of those who are invested in the public schools. I was a public school teacher for 12 years, educator, coach. My children are in our public school system. And one thing that has always been relevant is, especially in the state of North Carolina, as we had several marches and protests, this is the lack of funding per student. North Carolina already ranks low in funding per student. We were low, ranked low. At one point, I think it's gone up a little bit recently, in recent years, but in starting teacher pay, there's always the issue of oversized classrooms, being under-resourced. And we know there's been a fight, in the state of North Carolina with the budget and properly funding or giving increases. And now they're in the midst of trying to find, a proper place or a proper number to increase teachers' pay right now. I think the governor wants somewhere upwards to like 10%. They're fighting somewhere 5%, what have you. But with all these changes and everything, and I won't even really touch on higher learning, and I don't have anything in depth. But if you want to comment, please feel free to chime in and comment, because I'm not going to act like I'm the most first person on this or whatever. But the only thing that is alarming is when we look at a country and we understand that the majority of our youth, our children, school system, and I'm speaking to the traditional public school, not so much charter schools, because they are public schools and public funding, but they're kind of the combination, the fusion of both aspects of private. But we do understand the majority of our nation children go to these public schools, and as a nation, if we say that education is our most valuable for the future, so that we can stay in step with the world, why is there always a fight to fund it? Why is there always putting money or monetary resources back into what we value the most? Um, it just kind of tells me, and I can't even think who said it, but I look at it and they say, if you find where people place their money, you'll find where their values but we always say or speak the language of being 21st century equipped and wanting to advance and do stuff, but yet we underfund what we say we value the most. So, you know, it's very difficult for me to understand why there's a constant fight in these spaces. Number one, to fund the future of our youth, our babies, right? Now, it's not this, lessen the job that we're supposed to do as parents, right? As well, we're supposed to be guiding them and pouring into them as well, and being invested in that school, which has become an issue too, because schools, that school community is vital as well, right? Keeping families and communities invested in that school. And I'll speak to something we used to do when I was teaching at High Point Central. But number one, in investing in our babies, right, in the youth, why that shouldn't be a fight. Anytime we look at where our youth are, if they're supposed to be the future leaders of our nation and guide us and be the innovators and everything, why is there struggle in them? The people that are responsible for them attaining these goals and reaching these levels, thriving to become productive citizens, why is there a fight to pay them or compensate them um, for the work they do? And we know if anybody's worked with youth programs or the school system, been a part of PTA or been invested in any school community, it is a stressful task, right? Um, we'll just say to be underpaid and overworked. Um, some may argue, yeah, they get the summer. Many teachers I know have to work during the summer just to stay afloat. Um, so we understand this, and I just pray that, with the decisions, our government will do the right thing. We pray for them all the time and just hope they'll do the right things. And we can figure this out and become, uh, well, let me say this, in this binary construct that we have in our society, man, it pits you to have to be against instead of working together. When all in all, even if someone didn't vote for you, they're still your constituent. You still have to do what's in the best interest of everybody you represent. So we have to get away from these binary struggles. Like I said, I was at the advocacy day with the NAACP in Raleigh, and just talking about the fight and everything. And there's been many things that have been put forth that are just being shot down, not because um, they're unreasonable or unjust, but just because they're like, okay, we have to fight against you, and that's where we are right now uh, in our local governments, federal governments, and it's tough. It's scary to a degree because you wonder when will we get back to trying to represent the people and the party line solely. So I'm gonna leave that there, but I just remember and speaking to that, we've always had a lack of resources, but and I hope if we have some teachers listening, this might be a great idea for your school if you're not already doing it. But was we would actually here one Saturday a month, and we would go out in groups of maybe two, maybe partner up, or maybe four, depending on how many. And we would identify students that might be struggling or having some issues or some concerns. Uh, kind of look at the addresses, and we would go out and try to visit homes, parents and families and guardians, right? To just kind of introduce them and then just kind of talk to them just to show that we're concerned, we care, and we want to know what we can do to further guide or help that student. We were also present at community meetings or neighborhood meetings, right? Just to make ourselves more visible so that we could engage with that because our goal was not only to address what may have been going in the school building, but it was also to make a connection with to invite them in so they could feel more, uh, so they would feel welcomed, uh, so that we could build a culture to build a true community um, in that school. And it was very effective because I got to meet a lot of students that I might not have met because of my subject area or whatever, or grade level or whatever. And it was just good to see, number one, the diversity of our student population and the families we serve, but also just to get to know um, families even better. So, so I leave that there because and I'll close with this thought just to say, let's get back to what's really important, and that is the future of our youths. If we put their future at the forefront and what may be best for them, maybe it will guide us to work together to find solutions and not just win battles, because that's what it looks like. It looks like folks are trying to win battles, right? Instead of finding solutions for all. So I'm going to leave that there. And I'm going to say this once again, remember to like, share, subscribe. All right. Uh, Let me move on. Let me see where we at on time. We good. I ain't gonna try to keep you long. Um, so let me move to this. Uh, Shout out to brother Will Mackey McKee, Biographies TV, some TVs. Okay. My brother said good sound. Shout out to you, brother. I want to touch on something. For those that watched the past couple episodes, or we said on several episodes, and this came from brother Mackey McKee. And we had a great conversation about this last night. Uh, just our mantra now. What is the new currency, right? New currency, connection, right? Collectivism. Um, it's the new currency. And when you look at that in the framework of Resource Center TV and the Resource Center bookstore, right? Being that resource, right? And then we say the ultimate resource is you. It brought me to some of the knowledge of the gospel of hip hop that I read, and I want to share that with you. And under the fourth overstanding in the gospel of hip hop, the teacher KRS-One talks about um, H law. H law, which stands for health, love, awareness, and wealth. And in that section of wealth, he has a breakdown of what is true wealth. So I kind of want to share that, and I'll just share some thoughts. But once again, I'm not a spokesman for the temple. I'm not a member yet. Yet, let me make sure they get that. But it is an inspiring instrument, um, with a lot of knowledge and everything. And I just, being that I am hip hop, right? I want to share that with everybody. So give me a second. There it is. All right. So in the gospel of hip hop, the fourth overstanding, H law, health, love, awareness, and wealth. Under wealth, KRS says this. And the beautiful thing about this book, a lot of times KRS, uh, for balance, he uses him or her as a balance, himself, herself, right? To show that that is needed. Uh-oh, the wind is not letting me read this. What's going on? So, under wealth, oh, got some motorcycles going by. It is bike weekend down here in Myrtle Beach, but uh, page 260, verse 38, KRS 1, the teacher says, true wealth is not based upon how much one has. True wealth is based upon how much one can do without. It is not just about what one possesses, it is more about what one let go of. For when one is content with oneself, no material loss can ever overwhelm such a person. Self is the ultimate value. Does that not sound in line with the Resource Center TV's message? Right? Let me continue. Verse 39 says, an attuned hip hopper invested in herself can never really experience loss. She is self sufficient. She is sufficient unto herself. Self is enough for her. Just doing it alone or being ascetic but once we find the true value in ourselves and understand that is the true wealth, the ultimate resource, right? That is all we're dependent upon. Well, and we find God in that, right? Which that comes later. We'll maybe when we go deeper, another session, right? But it's sufficient enough. He goes on to say, self is enough for her. If she loses her eye or her ear or arm or leg, she makes use of whatever is left, knowing that these things, arm, leg, ears, eyes, etc., as valuable as they are still not as valuable as oneself. Right? Self sufficiency, or rather the state of being sufficient with only oneself, is one of the truest conditions of real wealth. Right? And he goes on later on to say in verse 42, the attuned hip hopper is first content with herself, with her own skill and self expression, and such contentment produces a wealthy mentality, which then produces money and other valued resources. Self is the true wealth, and from this true source comes the riches, whatever it may be, a healthier lifestyle, uh, better family relationships, a better social well being, right? Better mental health, better community. The things that we do become the true wealth, right? This is the new currency. And this is what we have to be on. It's not about accumulating mass material wealth all the time. That may come when you're ready for it, or when you need it to use it for something. But it should always be utilized for the upliftment of people, community, right? Let me say this. He says this in verse 45. Do not allow abundance and large sums of money to trap you. Be grateful for what you already have. Most of the time, it is your lack of money that is actually protecting the world as well as from your own ignorance. Ooh, that's powerful. That is powerful. So, in that sentiment, and I ain't gonna go too deep, but understand you are the true wealth. So, it is about your well being. So, if we look at that holistically, we put in so much for our vocations, our jobs, other people, and there's expectancies. But how much do we expect of ourselves? How much do we pour into ourselves? I know in the book, in the gospel, he always of hip hop, he also talks about not selfish, but being a selfist, because you cannot be a gift and a blessing to others if you're not a blessing to yourself. We go back to the great commandment of love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? So how can I be a blessing if I haven't invested into myself, right? With my prayer time, my meditation time, my reading time, my social time, my time with family, my those things that make us well and holistic, with my diet, with my whatever, exercise, with whatever we do to invest in ourselves. It also has to be enough, and we understand that we have the necessary gifts and tools. Like from First Peter the other night, we have the necessary tools. Sometimes we need that push to get us to truly go and just trust, right? In that higher power, the love, right? God, right? And that's where community comes in, right? Where we guide each other, we protect each other, we build collectively, right? Because we are truly invested in our well-being, and we understand the value of ourselves and how that coincides with the larger community, right? Uplifting humanity. Um, and in that focus to uplift humanity, all right, shout out to uh, the Moorish Science Temple of America, right? Master Noble Drew Ali spoke about the uplifting of humanity. But I want to share one more thing that uh, KRS speaks to. And this comes, let me get the right overstanding. Let's, let's quote, right? Hold on, hold on, hold on. And this comes from the fifth overstanding, the inner city, which is within you, right? The temple not made with hands, right? Where God dwells, right? He says, know this: humanity is God's technology. The more you master God's technology, the less you will need to depend upon the world's technology. Come on. God's technology heightens productive human interactions, creating the effect of civilization, right? Let me go. I'm gonna go back because there's more, but I'm gonna go back through that. Know this: humanity is God's technology. The more you master God's technology, the less you will need to depend upon the world's technology. God's technology, people, humanity, heightens productive human interactions, creating the effect of civilization. It does not matter how technologically advanced a nation is. Government corruption, racism, murder, theft, deceit, selfishness, greed, cruelty, etc., are not advanced human interactions. To be truly civilized, one must first be humane. One must be refined in learning, morality, and social manners. These are the causes of civilization. So all this technology, and everybody's fearing AI. and talking about this. But these advancements don't necessarily increase productive. Notice that word productive human interaction. That doesn't mean you're a high civilization, right? What determines high civilization is how we refine ourselves morally, socially, right? In our learning, our understanding to create productive human interactions. This is civilization. I'm going to leave that there because I don't want to go over everybody. But shout out once again to the Temple of Hip Hop, the teacher, KRS1, for the knowledge, the gospel of hip hop, the first instrument, right? So let me transition. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to start winding down into reading, right? What are you reading? What are you reading? And before I get into that segment, I just want to give a quick reminder to do what? It is a beautiful day. Let me just say that again. But once again, our book for the month, Everybody Communication and the Paths to Food Justice, right? And we had Dr. Naisha Doug, who was a co-author of this book. We had her on, and we're gonna have her back, people. Don't worry, because this is a great discussion. Um, but diving into the book, and let me just break it down again for those that may not know, right? Um, this book came from an actual movement in um, after a study that came out showing Greensboro, High Point, Guilford County being, I believe, top four in the nation uh, uh, food insecurity or food deserts. This came local um, to create the need um, for food security and food advocacy and food justice, as we could call it, and an introduction to how these things came about, and then it focuses on the individual movements of this or groups a part of this movement to address food in Greensboro. Questions um, that came out of this, and I want to talk is what is community, right? And that needs to be defined. What is the community, and what are the resources of those communities, right? Because a lot of times, I think Dr. Claude Anderson speaks to this, right? We have neighborhoods, but not communities. We live in neighborhoods, but they're not communal in the sense, or community in things together with one another, or working in coalition to have autonomy, their food, their grocery stores, their education, their right. Um, and one thing about this book, it speaks identifying the communities. It was several groups that were coming together to focus on one community, which had its own level of dynamics that they had to sort through in this book. In particular, speaking started in the Warnersville community, right? And community groups with, as well as the community that might be part of an organization, but just in general, uh, those who were in the process or in the movement to address food justice. And a lot of dynamics, and further trying to build now the engagement of said, now, because I'm not going to give the whole book away, is at the beginning. Once we identify maybe the issue or the problem or whatever we want to address, the first thing that they identified was sitting down to identify what resources there are. And once identified, how do we use them and leverage them to address the issue that we're focused on? Because many times people come in and try to say, well, this is what you should do. This is what we need to do. This is blah, blah, blah. But we never have that moment to sit down and assess, okay, what resources do we have first and foremost? The resource center TV. But that's very key. And I just wanted to use that to kind of transition also just in our individual efforts, or as we're trying to build stuff or grow or move up in whatever area or lane we're in. Do we sit down and identify what resources we already have and how they can be effectively utilized and sustained? I know a lot of times we take effort. Oh, that's a whole. Efforts upon ourselves, and we don't really identify the resources that we have, the resources we need. And sometimes it can cause a burnout or a letdown. I know I've been there many times. But also in our group efforts, we get inspired. We have an idea. We want to do stuff and we start moving. But we never have truly effectively planned out the utilization of the resources we have in order to get whatever additional resources we needed. So if you're moving in any direction or you're trying to grow, we sit down and analyze, okay, what is our community? All right, who all shares the same recognition or identification of the issue, the same passion to address it, because that first sets and builds and establishes our community, who we are coming together to address this, and then really assessing our resources, what we have, and how to effectively use them in order to address it, even in our self expressions or what we do individually. Assess your resources, right? Right now, I've got a camera, a microphone, internet, a laptop. So we effectively use it, right? Could we use more resources? Of course. But this do what we must, right? And that is coming on this platform to share with you all. All right. But I'm going to leave that there. And I didn't put on my pastoral hat. I usually end with what you're reading, but I forgot on the pastoral hat and share something. So I'm going to do that. So we'll end it with this. And I want to share scripture and some thought, and then we'll get on up out of here. So another one of my favorite scriptures or set of verses, right, comes from 1 John chapter 3 verses 1 through 3. And I love these letters, right? 1 Peter, 1 John, right? Specific. And this comes from the NRSV, if that matters to you. But it says this, verse 1, see what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God. Identity. Let me start that over. See what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Beloved, we are God's children now. What we will be has not yet been revealed. What we do know is this: when he is revealed, we will be like him, for we will see him as he is. And all who have this hope in him purify themselves just as he is pure. Right? So know who you are and whose you are. Whatever expression it comes to you, right? We opened the show uh, the, the other night with the greetings from many of us, right? But know your identity, know who you are and know whose you are, right? The Most High, children of God, know who you are. And once you know that, the world cannot define you. The world will not be able to, because that's one thing our society likes to do. They like to label you, to put you in categories, because that is how divided, right? Oh, you're from, okay, you're poor, you're illiterate, you're old, you're too young, you're black, you're, right? Society does that. I remember I always joke when I was in the school system, man, before kids even hit the front door, they've been placed at worse, right? To identify them. Uh, but our true identity is what we find Most High, which is in us, right? Children of that Most High. But we have to connect with that. We have to perceive that, understand that, and then live in that. So it doesn't just stop here, but we have to live in that. But once we do and accept that, which is a fight, I'm working every day to live in that. But once we do that, it makes it hard for the world to determine your success, your wealth, your greatness. Once we say it, it's you, the true currency, the new currency, the true wealth, which is you. But it starts with knowing your true identity, and your identity is connected with your purpose. When you know that, then you identify with your purpose, and you avoid all these labels that keep us disconnected, right? Shout out to the Rastafarian Brotherhood, because they say I and I, right? They don't like using still individualized or separated, because we are connected. So shout out to them. Um, but that is found in our identity with the Most High. Whatever expression you find it in, right? Know that you are a child. That is why you are here by the greater love, which is God. So think about the power in that you're here, and walk in that gift, because you are meant to be a gift and a blessing. And when you find your identity, the world cannot tear you down. So I leave you with that. I thank you all for jumping in. IG, love you. YouTube, love you. Facebook, love you. As you see running on the screen, please reach out, connect to us, share out, and we'll probably be back for a little Wednesday wisdom. Um, but I thank everybody. Beautiful day. Let me see if I can give y'all a shot. I'm a little congested here, but I want to make sure y'all get a little bit of this view. Let me see if I can get I don't know if you can see the ocean over there. It's a beautiful day. I know I'm all crooked. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right. Oh, but the city is like as well. And in that, it is also well with my soul. We will see you next week, or Wednesday. Wednesday wisdom. Knocking over my stuff. Wednesday wisdom. We'll see you live from the